Now, but we are on now track 2, coming to you live from the Motilal Oswal Global Investor Conference. My next set of guests, Rajat Rajarhia and Susmit Patodio. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for being here, and thanks for joining in. First things first, let me actually ask you, before I get to anything else, we've been getting some corporate commentary from the conference, lots of investor participation. Just we're speaking with Samir Arora. Rajat, your sense on what companies have said so far? Because I think the one thing that sparked this leg of the rally was a great Q1, or at least a better than expected Q1. So do you think that that momentum is going to continue? Is that well and truly here to stay?
Right. So I think across the board over the last 3 days, if I were to sum up the commentary of all the companies, Q1 was great, but it also had a low base last year Q1. But the underlying demand growth recovery in many of the sectors has been quite good. And I think also the recovery that you have been seeing in the cyclicals have also added to this market.
Sure.
Right. While in general, market should get worried about the way currency has behaved. Right. But I think in this round, this currency depreciation is something which is going to be net quite positive for many businesses.
Yeah, I was actually looking at your notes in your report. I think a large chunk of the Nifty companies actually end up benefiting a lot from rupee weakness. So, I mean, should we get worried about rupee at 70.5?
I think 70.5, 71 in my view is really not a reason to be worried about. We somewhere needed this kind of a rupee level to boost our exports, boost our industrial activity, right? The worry would be if this moves up from these levels to maybe more closer to 74, 75. That is something which probably will create more dent. But I think this 70 is really a good level as far as the earnings are concerned right now.
Okay. Susmit, your thoughts on what investors are saying as of now, because we've been through a period where obviously domestic institutions keep buying, but foreigners have been sort of a little iffy with this market. What's the commentary that you're picking up now?
So foreign investors are a little more wary of valuation than domestic because they have options apart from India as well. So when something goes to 10 times price to book or 8 times price to book, it doesn't fit into the investment framework. Having said that, as we have seen, the markets continue to be significantly polarized, right? So we are seeing, in fact, this time around, a lot of the FI interest is in the companies which have not done so well in the markets.
Okay.
So we're seeing more interest in 10 time, 15 time earnings companies where the earnings growth may not be 30%, but more like 10%, 15%.
That's pretty interesting. I wonder where that's coming from. I mean, it's just they're chasing cheaper valuations. And which particular sector is this interest concentrated in?
So it's not necessarily cheaper valuation, it's relative valuation, I would say. So I think if you look at this entire PSU space, we've had significant interest from foreigners in the petronets of the world, the utilities in general. If you go over to the media, I think there's a lot of interest in the media part of the market as well. Financials is an independent entity right now in the market. Everybody loves financials, so I think financials is, even in financials, if you look at the corporate banks, the maximum interest is in the corporate bank from the foreign investors, and not so much.
Yeah, a couple of months back, who would have thought Axis Bank had fresh one-year high? So things have really changed. On that note, Rajat, let me ask your views on what you are expecting from corporate banks now. The rally has been phenomenal. Do you also believe that the recovery process is going to be actually maybe even better than what one is building in? So therefore, would you sort of look at getting even more bullish on the likes of an ICICI or, for that matter, an SBI or an Axis?
So I think there are 3 different reasons to look at corporate banks. First, I think last 4 years of reporting of these banks have made people forget how these banks used to report prior to 4 years back, right? I think we need to do a good job to start refreshing that memory now. Because when they move from one end of the pendulum to another, right, the numbers can look very different. We are far away from that, but I think even reversion to mean itself can bring back some of these banks to reasonably attractive return ratios. Point number 1. Point number 2, I think generally people are believing that the rate cycle that we saw of last 2 hikes are largely done with for the time being right now. We are not expecting any more rate hikes from now, at least till elections. And I think that the third thing is this all management changes which are happening in the whole banking system is creating a lot of talks about where to bet, where not to bet.
Sure.
Right. We had Shri Rajnish Kumar from SBI who presented day before yesterday. We have pretty good meetings of ICICI Bank, the CEO Mr. Bakshi, many other corporate lenders who have been here. I think people are getting a new sense of excitement after meeting these guys about the growth opportunity. And while some of them may be at their 1 year high, right, they are still well below than what the markets have done over the last few years.
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of catch up still needs to be done in these
Okay,
numbers.
just my last very quick question, little short on time. You've come out with a list of 10 focus stocks at the end of the first quarter reporting season, and ICICI Bank is among them. But I want to talk to you actually about Titan and Sun Pharma very, very briefly. I mean, if you can share some thoughts here, because Pharma again has been that dark horse that finally started to run. Just your views.
So, first on Titan, this is a stock that we have been quite positive for almost a year now. We have done series of reports where we think that this entire business is going to get more and more concentrated towards branded player like Titan.
But it's been getting stuck at that 900, 990 level, and then we got the management sounding a little cautious, and then, you know, therefore.
I think investors who have been are very happy with the way it's made money in the last 2 years.
That's
right?
true.
Maybe we are used to a 10% monthly gain now, but maybe I think it's okay if the stock. Look, good stocks typically tend to consolidate, right? When you don't get good news, and when you get good news, they again start going up, right? So maybe Titan is in that bracket. Second, about Sun Pharma, I think we have seen the whole pharma profit pool getting significantly, eroded in the last 3, 4, 5 years, right? At least the bad news have stopped flowing now. Currency will be some savior, right? And the base of earnings growth is quite conducive for them to deliver double-digit returns from here. So I think we are trying to be a little more opportunistic by being more favorable to pharma after seeing what has happened to IT in the preceding 12 months.
Sure. All right, thank you very much, Rajat and Susmit. Thanks very much for getting us those views. Well, on that note, we will take a very quick break. We're down to the last 10 minutes of trade this Wednesday. Back in just a moment.